Okay, well, let's continue with this. And just to give you guys a little bit of a whatnot here, that is... Oh, you move there. Okay. What I often do on my own website, for example, is to talk about history, blather on about it, while playing the game a bit more so than I normally do here on Slytherin, but we're playing longer today, so I felt I could take the time, and you'll still get plenty of action from the game. Slytherin very much has encouraged me to talk about history, so long as we still continue to feature a lot of gameplay while doing so. Well, I was beginning to realize the need for motorization of a nation and the army is just support. Yeah, okay, another little thing about, and what Toyjet is saying there. Oh yeah, well, that's why I love him, Chaplain for Bacchus. I mean, I love things, and I haven't completed the game, but I've delved very deep into Battle Sector, playing it just on my own. You know, I love other games in history, but what I love about like a lot of Slytherin stuff is its historical base. What Toyjet is bringing up there is, you know, need motorization for the nation and the army just as the war began. Okay, this is one thing that Italy realizes about 1940, 1941, and so you got to sort of remember that this is 1940, 1941, and I have, oh, I forget the name of the book. I have the only book I could find. Let me pull it off the shelf over here. I've only read about a third of the book, quite honestly. The Iron Arm by John Joseph Timothy Sweet, Stackpole Military History Series, Mechanization of Mussolini's Army, 1920 to 1940. They talk about how around 1940 they really start looking at motorization, and one thing that they realize, and this is sort of 40-41, they realize that they can't, I mean, they already have tanks, you know, they already, you know, go back to 35 and, you know, attacking Ethiopia, or you go back even before World War I or after World War I, when they're fighting, sort of technically fighting the Ottoman Empire, trying to conquer Tripolitania, you know, eastern Libya. The Italians are using armored cars to a very small degree out there in their fight against the desert nomads. So they're already doing some motorization. So they have that, but to motorize their army, they can't just do that. They realize they have to motorize society, because you need the infrastructure that's basically built as a civilian infrastructure for motorization for things such as a fuel distribution network on a scale that can handle motorization. So having a quote-unquote gas station in, you know, two or three in every city, one in every decent sized village, or what, you know, or I don't know if we want to call them village or town. Let's use the word town. You know, decent sized town that's really just a place that sells, you know, gasoline that they will pour out of, you know, metal cans into your car, and then at some point they get those things refueled. We're not even necessarily talking about an automated pump kind of situation. A lot of, you know, people were just buying gasoline that somebody, you know, had them in their, you know, gasoline cans and filled up the car and they drove on. Well, a division, a brigade, even a battalion of armored something shows up in this town needing to refuel. Where are they going to get gas? Where's the trucks or trains or even wagons set up to move lots of fuel around the nation to support automotivation? To support that kind of operations. See this very much with Germany, the NSKK, the National Socialist Kraftfahrt, I think is what it stands for. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but that's sort of that had broke off from the SA. That's the sort of Nazi motorized party arm, but they have a huge across Germany setup to train people to be drivers. One of the reasons there's so many motorcycles used in the German army. Now, the U.S., I think, produces and uses more motorcycles during World War II than the total German use of motorcycles. And just how much U.S. production things, but we don't think of it, U.S. as being a motorcycle-based army, but we sort of do from Germany. The Kradschützen and whatnot is because so many Germans know how to ride motorcycles, but they don't know how to drive a car. So the NSKK is setting up all over to train both mechanics and drivers. And it's an essential element of militarization of German society because they need drivers. And so the Germans continue to use lots and lots of motorcycles just because they don't have a huge population base of drivers. So they're one of their sort of choke points on trucks and any sort of motorization is finding people and or training them who can drive. So you're dealing with that with Germany as well, just with Germany, but Italy is realizing this as well as the war is sort of starting again for them, because it's for them it starts in 1940 that the armored arm, that or the motorization arm in Italy, is that they have to get a nation of drivers, a infrastructure of people that can support motorization, mechanics, drivers, all this stuff. And that also just is not in existence in Poland. So you really have to, I have a book on the Italian. Courage Alone, it details equipment, organization, equipment. Italy's a great reference, but emphasizes that while there were great planes and the planes industry couldn't provide planes from nearly caught it. Yes, kind of similar how electric cars, they also need, absolutely. We have two problems. One, not so much battery life with modern electric cars, but time it takes to charge them up compared to the time it takes to fuel a gas tank, and two, the infrastructure, a national infrastructure. And obviously it'd be easier to, put it in Luxembourg, if you're only running around Luxembourg in electric cars, than it would in a place like the United States. Or you could easily pick out a city and get an electrical infrastructure, but then once you start leaving that city, you start becoming on a short tether, and it takes a long time to charge your car up. So that's sort of the electric problem in the modern world, is why it's going to take me a long time to ever want to drive an electric car. Not because I hate electric cars. It's just that infrastructure elements that, for me, it's a no-go. I'm a Californian, if you don't know, and everything is built around cars, and we go to anywhere, the store, anything, always in cars. I know it's different in other parts of the world, including other parts of the U.S., but here, even if you're sort of on a poor like me, you don't need to be a rich person. Poor like me, you have an automobile here. You just do. Yeah, the Kettenkrad. That's exactly right. Is one of the reasons they produce that. It's a great vehicle, but it's overbuilt design. But it drives like a motorcycle. So the motorcycle driving populace knows how to drive, basically a Kettenkrad, but you put them in a half track, a bigger one. That's a different driving experience for the drivers. So it turns out I've not driven either one, but everything I've read and heard. So they produce a lot of Kettenkrads for small utility type functions mostly. You see them around airfields towing aircraft around, or one of the big things which we don't really see is because radios are still not that great at this time period, the U.S. eventually is the best, I would say, with their radio infrastructure by the end of World War II. But even they still use a lot of field telephones. And the Germans use lots of Kettenkrads to lay field telephone lines in the field as the operations are going. And so they can go across sort of, through forests, through whatever, to lay these, they have big spools on the back of the Kettenkrad lay the field telephone lines. I don't, because they're copper, I presume, and copper's in very short supply. I don't know how often they go pick it up after the battle, but as the battle is developing, Kettengrad's come along later than the Poland campaign, but I think it's 42, but don't quote me on dates like that if I'm just pulling it out of the air. That was one of the main functions in the field, so we don't have a lot of sexy combat pictures or whatever. And then, of course, mountain troops, and sometimes you see them loaded on airplanes. They can't parachute out, but they can, fly into a place and unload from an airplane to have a local light utility vehicle. Did the British use many motorbikes? Yes, the British used some motorbikes, absolutely. The U.S. and Britain, as far as I know, don't have the equivalent of a motorcycle combat company like the Germans do, the Kradschützens. They definitely use, the Americans definitely use some as a reconnaissance element, but a lot of it is liaison, just a lot of motorcycles running around. And I'm talking in the hundreds of thousands of motorcycles, I believe. I'd have to look that up. I actually looked it up probably a month or two ago. And I was wondering, how much American motorcycles were used? And I find out, oh yeah, one like Harley Davidson alone, and there's multiple companies. Uh-oh. Are we off the air? Or are we still on? Says I'm live on my end. Okay, you're back on. Good. That my end didn't show any hiccup. That must have been Twitch. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. So yeah, so I was looking, just up Harley Davidson. I think because I was counting some of the, BMW and some of the other major motorcycle manufacturers in Germany. Their overall, Wikipedia estimated or whatever production numbers. Yeah, Harley Davidson makes more motorcycles alone, and there's several motorcycle companies making them than Germany does combined during the war. So yeah, there could have been motorcycles gangs of the Western Front if the U.S. wanted to, but they use them domestically in the U.S. They use them all over, but there's just not the sort of, motorcycle company combat. Oh, well, you also have the lithium, yes. Well, there's a lot of problems with, there's from the generation of the electricity to the manufacturing of like the batteries and the cars. I'm not saying electricity isn't the future, but to me it's not even the now. It's experimental now, and that's fine. And it's fine that people are using them, but it's not right now saving the planet. It's as dirty as any gasoline engine vehicle driving equal amounts of distance. No, someday in the future that can change. Yes, technical achievement depends on other technical advancement. Make it, yes, absolutely. Beam slam. It's like a chain. Absolutely. So yeah. Britain did use motorcycles, but again, not. And in the early days, in the 1940 campaign, there was definitely some reconnaissance elements with Britain and motorcycles, but very much the sort of look, see, run away. Not look and fight if necessary, like the Germans used them with their Kradschützen. Notice I'm saying Krad, which I think is like motorcycle or whatever, but Schützen, shooters, riflemen. So that is an element of what's going on. Okay, well, we're going to fly down here. We're going to shoot at this Polish bomber. They've moved. They've come down here. They're sitting here. No, we're not going to attack. We're just going to keep them in place. Oh, I'm a big supporter of hydrogen. Hydrogen, you can do internal combustion engines and hydrogen, and they have zero emissions. The only thing to global warming they might theoretically be contributing is simply the heat from the engine itself. But there's no dirty emissions at all. And see all this here? That's all hydrogen flowing right here on this map called water. We just need to develop a good separation. Now, can we do a good separation that separates, have a tank full of water and separates it in the car. I don't know that we can. I just don't know enough about that technically, or whether we want to have, you know, compressed hydrogen, you know, in a compression bottle, not too big, so it's not a big explosive time bomb, but you put it at the center of the car and whatnot. You try to make it really relatively safe. I was going to say really safe, but relatively safe, and you just do that. Yeah, no, hydrogen is, in my opinion, is the fuel of the future. I'm all for a nice clean planet, but I don't want to, this is me talking here, not anything, but I don't want to wreck society trying to do it. So development, yes. Okay, well, let's go this way instead of me randomly clicking. No, they have too good of it. Yeah, I'd like you a little stronger. And I'd like you a little stronger. You're going to stay right there. You're going to... Yep, you're facing 2 units. And... we'll sort of spend there. Yep, and you'll just hang there and you're just... So I know there's a charge, at least there was a unit here. It may have moved back. They need to find a safe way to use it. Yeah, safe way to use hydrogen. The only way to make electric cars sustainable, a word I despise, is go straight from nuclear to electric with lower entropy impact. Hydrogen is several decades, you know, several decades away, but to me, several decades is not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, I'm just... I don't think there's any climate emergency. Not that things shouldn't get better, but there isn't any climate emergency. Right. Okay. Let's give the Poles their chance to deal with us. Or, well, first our allied German, other German command gets to move around. And I'll say, even though I'm here on Slytherin, all these modern opinions or whatever are my own. The historical-based ones are history-based, obviously. I'm just fascinated by the history. And all the reasons behind everything happening. Well, I moved a nice 2 strength infantry unit out for me to maybe kill it. Yeah, it's sort of better that we fight a defensive battle try to attack at bad odds, but we're still not hurt bad enough. Nope, that wasn't good. That engineer unit probably should fall back. Okay, well, let's be sensible. Come down here and then here. Okay, I think, not sure, but I think that take these flag positions here counts as cutting or encircling or whatever the term they used for Warsaw as opposed to capital. So I think we've achieved it. Now they have an AA unit there, so we're going to come over to here. We're going to shoot at that. We're going to leave these guys up here just because I'm so short on points to rehabilitate them now. Oh, damn. Went into a bunker. Why didn't he see that bunker next to him? Well. Oh, well. They're pointing up into the sky, I believe, so we don't have a anti-tank fighting from them. Yeah, we'll push up. Maybe that wasn't the best idea. Now for over here. okay, that actually having them withdraw to there works out. We're going to withdraw you guys because you engineers are useful, but not that great a combat unit. Almighty you decided all cars will have to run on batteries starting 2030, and it's 9 years away and legislation trumps. Yeah, legislation trumps laws of physics. That's got to be the case, right? Yeah. Okay, you pound into that. See what you can do about that AT gun. You're gonna fall back, are you? Well, good, so we'll fall in, we'll push into there. So next turn we can push directly on the AT gun. With the heavies. You're just sort of playing checkmate with them. Okay, you attacked the airbase already. Let's move you up here. I still think there's somebody in there. Yep, they're all staying in their hangars. Okay. Good, thank you, Allied German unit. Well, it's more of, you know, different command, but not technically an ally. The Poles are bombing Warsaw. How could they? Oh, so they switched so he can use his. Oh no, still too far away, but that's sort of why I'm staying away from the fort and moving out now from there. Okay, we've encircled Warsaw, and then we just need to kill 3 more ground units to get that done. So since we've encircled Warsaw, and I don't want to fully lose any units, let's withdraw you to here. That is a useful thing. We'll use this heavier tank unit to take out the Polish AT guns. Well, let's move the fighter over here and take him out. It would take 9 years from now to build infrastructure for electric vehicles. I don't see that in any country. There are a few electric points and supermarkets, that's all. Yeah, infrastructure's the thing. What's the saying? Amateurs study tactics. Professionals study logistics. Not entirely true, but there is truth in that. They came down to here, so he withdrew to there, which I wish I was still there, but I'll take out this unit here. No, stay in the woods. That would be interesting, wireless charging from the roads. Beans and bullets make the war go round. Yep. Use a heavier gun vehicle first. Well, we still have plenty of time left, so yeah, don't know that we're going to try to go across the bridge to there. That just seems silly, quite honestly. Oh, you can move up. Right. No, that's, well, no, we will. I would prefer to use... Okay. I'd like these to gain stars. I'd like to have an elite force here. Well, now that I think about it, that withdrew to there, so we can now attack here. Oh, there's that anti-tank I didn't see. Damn. That hurt badly. Damn. Someone pointed out in one of the videos that I posted playing this, I make a lot of mistakes. Yes, I do. There's some sort of charging mechanism laid into the road so that the vehicles gain power as they move. That would be interesting. I know a lot of people would then be concerned, whether it's legit or not, with getting cancer from electrical emissions, because I know here in America there's been some court cases in which people have won damages. High voltage electric lines, people living near them, sort of not your usual ones running to your house, but big sort of, you know, a big tree of a lot of them that were built near some houses, that cancer rates shot up statistically. Now, could just be all that they all smoked and the other neighborhoods didn't smoke. I don't know, but cancer rates shot up. They found, and this is in the olden days, back in the 80s or whatever. So they've tried to not put high tension, high transmission level power lines too near residents that people are spending all day on, at. So I know people, again, I don't know that there's any medical legitimacy, but people would just have that as a concern. I am absolutely sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, these are infantry. Continue. Oh, Lieutenant, great to have you back, and of course, thanks for your subscription. I'm not sure if my allied unit killing ground units counts on my total or not. That's gonna hurt. That's hurting. So it looks like with that, we've just hit the subscriber level. Just saying here, we just hit the subscriber level, or will to get more DLCs. In the Sliss store. Very good. Just looked up and noticed that. Right, shortly after the fall of Warsaw, the Soviet invasion from the east, the war in Poland has come to an end. The German forces are now redeploying to face the growing Anglo or Franco-British threat. So, okay, so we wouldn't have achieved the aircraft, and of course I wasn't even trying for the fortress, but we achieved our goals in 22 turns. Very, very good.